Hi, I'm honored to be here, and it's a sort of ironic thing that we're in this building and talking about ethics. Being that the original proposed plan was going to be helping the people of Overtown. So I've seen a lot of them being employed here already and working and being the offering of their jobs. Welcome to Miami, where it's not an issue so much to displace people, it's more of an issue, how much money do I make? And I have nothing against making money because my children take it all, so it's okay with me. What I thought I would do, I was going to start off, because I started after graduating medical school and coming here. My little sister died when I was in medical school. I am the only male child of an immigrant family. My parents came from Cuba in 1944 and 45. They did not come here as exiles. They came here as immigrants. My father, they were very poor. My father's the first one to finish high school in our family, became a physician. Tells me we're the only one that lost nothing with Fidel. I said, how's that? He goes, we had nothing. So we really couldn't lose anything. And my father, who unfortunately now has advanced Alzheimer's, was a person of deep ethics, that did things because that's the way it was supposed to be done. In 1960, we moved into Westchester, which became Wet'suwet'en, and is now Wet'suwet'en by the sea. And my father never moved from there. We never talked about money. We talked about what we were supposed to do. I grew up at an interesting time in the 60s and the 70s where my generation was going to save the world. I think, unfortunately, everybody got stoned and forgot about it, and then they woke up, and things were quite a mess. And my little sister was driving down to spend her 18th birthday with me, and she never made it. She died in a car accident. Being the only male in a family, especially an immigrant family, you have a sense of responsibility for your sisters. Sorry. God, it was a long time ago. Anyways, what ended up happening is you have a deep anger when that happens. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me when I want to make the world better? So I made a promise to God. If I ever got to be a physician, I never wanted to see anybody die or suffer alone. Well, there's a problem when you make a promise like that. Where are you going to hide? Well, I found a place, City Hall, because apparently God has never been there. And so it was pretty easy there. But in one of my first rotations at Jackson, there was a man in the intensive care unit who was intubated, dying of what we call miliary tuberculosis. That means TB has spread throughout your whole body. And he had a name tag on his wrist with a date of birth that corresponded to a much younger person. And he never made it out of the intensive care unit, but the promise I had made drove me out into the streets to see what was going on. This is the early 1980s. Reagan's the president. There's a huge recession. There's crack, and there's a whole new virus called AIDS. Nobody knew what was going on with it. Nobody knew how to treat it. And we went out into the streets to find his home, or his family, and we went to, there was only 2 shelters. Unfortunately, we're not known as the most compassionate city in this country. And what I found was a window into a world of poverty that I never knew existed in my own backyard. The pastels, the palm trees, the beautiful buildings, downtown, it's all gorgeous. Drive 3 blocks north of here. Drive 3 blocks that way. And you'll find the most incredible poverty you've ever seen in your life. I'm going to read a story to you, and I'm going to take you back to an experience I had here 30 years ago. It was a Tuesday night at the clinic when a young woman in a tattered red dress came in. She was about 25 years old. She seemed a lot older. The lines of her battle-weary face barely concealed beneath a smudge of stale makeup. Her soiled clothes, a swath of spandex, told the story of her hard life on the streets. Her eyes revealed her turmoil. Whatever her story, she deserved a bath and a rest. That night I was working with third and fourth year medical students, and I sent Carlos, a third year student, into room 2 where she sat weeping. Within minutes, the student ran out. Dr. Greer, he said, I can't get a story out of her. I don't know what to do. I said, what's the problem? Because I don't know, she's crying like a baby, she won't stop. I said, what do you think it is? Emotional, physical, drugs? I don't know, he repeated more urgently. Opening the medical chart, he said, she's been here once before, some dermatologic problem, no history of psych problems noted. Then with a smirk, he said, she does smoke crack. Must be the perks of prostitution. We walked into the exam room and we found a desperate woman. She was trembling. I extended my hand to greet her. We doctors do that. We touch other people. It has to be done with the utmost respect. We're here to help you. Do you hurt somewhere? I asked, gently nudging her elbow to give her a sense of stability. She was full of tears, gasping for air. It hurts down here, she said between sobs, holding her lower abdomen and doubling over. It feels like it's burning. It won't stop. Please help me, please. The nurse and I, we calmed her down. And as I laid her down on the gurney to examine her, and I palpated her tender belly and examined her further, I concluded that her symptoms and the exam suggested a mix of pelvic inflammatory disease and other sexually transmitted diseases. It'll be okay, I told her, trying to offer a little solace and a little reassurance. Slowly, she began to tell us why she had really come to our clinic when she could have gone to the gynecologist at the public health unit. I was raped. Raped hard last night, she said, as she doubled over again in tears and in shame. Why didn't you go to the rape treatment center at Jackson last night, I asked. After all, it's just a couple miles away. Doctor, she said with a look that suggested I should know the answer to my own question. Look at me, she said. Look at how I'm dressed. She paused and then again she broke into sobs. I couldn't take the comments that people would make. On these very streets, not far from this building, a human being is violated. Can't seek help because of the comments people make to her, because of the way she dresses. You want to talk about ethics? Let's talk about social values. Let's talk about morality. Let's talk about what happens to people every single day that don't have the advantages that we have. And we have the power to make a change in this community to improve the life and the health of everybody. And when I say health, I'm not talking physical health. I'm talking about the culture of health, the aspect of being happy, your quality of your life, what you can do to make this world better. I've had, my life is, as my daughter would describe it, I'm probably the Forrest Gump of medicine. I have had the advantage of stumbling upon different things. Since I'm Cubish, I'm Cuban-Irish. That means I'm from one poor, small, Catholic, corrupt island to another. I figure I have nothing to lose. When I've been able to work in 2 administrations, the Bush Senior administration and the Clinton administration. And one of the things I noticed in Washington, and I noticed with most elected officials, is besides the fact that they're mostly full of shit, the fact that they think they're so damn important. The reality is we're not that important. The work we do is important. We all offer something on this earth to make it better. And you make those efforts to do that. I remember when Lou Sullivan suggested that we needed more minority physicians, which is true, because we only have 4% Hispanic physicians in this country. I think they all live in Miami. And 6% African American, which is not representative of all of our country. And then he said to go back and work in minority areas. Well, the truth is that's what happens. So I raised my hand and I said, "Ekomi, my name is Pedro. Do I only get the barrio?" I believe as a professional, we should take care of people without prejudice. We take care of everybody. When did it become socially acceptable in America? When did it become socially acceptable that a health professional would refuse a patient because they had no money? Not just that we do it. When did it become socially acceptable? Where's the outrage? Where's the people saying, what kind of bullshit is that? It's not like you're poor, you're doctors. When my daughter was applying to college, she said, can I apply as a minority? I said, what's your status? You've been to private school your whole life? Then I got the tuition. I said, shit, why didn't you apply as a minority? But the reality is, we all can do something. And we all have to do it, and you have to, deep inside, you have to find out, what are your ethics? Where is your moral gauge? At what point do you become outraged morally that you say, this is totally unacceptable? This is not right. We've been lucky at FIU. We're a brand new medical school. We have the first new curriculum in over 100 years. I have a strong feeling that if I'm going to receive public dollars, I have a huge social responsibility to the public. A medical school should not be measured on the discoveries it makes, but on the improvement of the health of the community where it sits, period. 80% of all diseases in this country are caused by what we call social determinants of health. They're also the social determinants of education, of employment, and everything else. 80% of diseases. We don't deal with those. Miami Gardens, we superimposed national cancer data. They had the highest incidence of metastatic breast cancer in women under the age of 55 in this state, third highest in the country. When we asked them what was going on, they told us, Doc, why should we get a mammogram? I said, what do you mean? Well, 40% of that community is uninsured. They live below the poverty level. For a mother to go get a mammogram means she has to take a full day off work because it's 2 bus rides, and then you get treated like shit when you get to a public center anyways. And if the mammogram's positive, you want your result, you got to take another day off work. Imagine taking 20% off your income when you're on minimum wage. And if it's positive and you need a diagnostic mammography, you know how long it takes to get an appointment at Jackson? 9 to 12 months. By the time you show up, let me tell you, the cancer spread. And if it's positive, it takes another 3 to 6 months to get an appointment with a surgeon or an oncologist. Because we have a public system, and we have the half-penny sales tax that only goes to Jackson, doesn't go and follow the patient, but it has the patient follow the money. And then my profession has dropped the ball. Really? Is it that difficult to see another patient this week? You're going to have to wait an extra 3 months to get a new Mercedes? It's not so bad. We're a profession, we're not a business. Unfortunately, we become a business. So we formed a thing where we actually teach the students about social determinants. Not only that, most vulnerable communities do not like academic institutions because we've screwed them over for generation to generation. Let me do a study. Oh, here's the results. Goodbye. We do a survey. What do you need? I need a job. I have foreclosure issues. Don't worry, we'll build you a clinic. We didn't say we needed a clinic. We don't listen. We barely engage, and we surely don't develop. So we form teams with medical students, law students, social work students, public health students. We got students from the School of Education because the parents there wanted tutoring for their kids. Our medical students wanted to do it. We reminded them that they had rotations and what happens when they missed a tutoring session for the kid. We as doctors need to learn how to play in the sandbox a little better with everybody else, realizing that 80% of the causes of diseases are not biologic in nature. And it's about people's quality of life. It's not about the size of the tumor that I shrunk. It's about the life that you have with your family. They tell us to be empathetic. 70% of American medical students come from families that make $250,000 a year or more. How the hell are they going to be sympathetic with a single mother that has metastatic breast cancer and can't think about what's going to happen to her children in the future because she has no job? And when we asked those women in Miami Gardens, why aren't you getting mammograms, you know what they told us? The truth. They said, Doc, why should I get a mammogram? I'm going to die anyways if it's going to take so long. What kind of country do I live in where we have the greatest science, yet we don't allow it for everybody that is here? That is not only unethical, it is immoral, it is embarrassing, and it is something we need to change. At my age right now, I really don't care what I say, because what are they going to do, fire me? You know? And the reality is, we learn more from those that don't have than we do from those that do. I learned more from that young lady. I realized that no matter what type of medical system we have, no matter what kind of medical center we have, there's nothing in there to protect somebody from prejudice. You can't build a soul. That comes from each and every one of you in your companies. You guys are here to make this community better, and you are making it better. It's exciting to see you all here. And it's not for you to go out to do social work and do this, but you have employees. And it becomes important that you set the trend on what is right to be done. There's business ethics, there's medical ethics that we're not following very well in this country. Well, we're twice as expensive as any other country in the world in medical expenses, but we rank 39th in the world. Really? We're talking about pride? I'm running for president, so I'm going to buy a handgun on Christmas Eve to protect my family against ISIS? Isn't that like taking a knife to a gunfight? I mean, seriously? This is what we're listening to in the political arena? Yeah, it was tough being one of 4 Cuban Democrats back in the day. We used to meet in a phone booth on 8th Street. 2 of them went to Colorado, became hippies, and we don't know what happened to them. But the other one we have, he's lost. And it's been interesting. I was offered positions in Washington. I remember when I came down during the Clinton administration, they had offered me Surgeon General. My daughter was about 8 years old at the time. I come back to Miami, we're sitting at dinner, and we're talking about the trip, and I said, I've been offered a position in Washington, which means I'd have to work there. And my daughter, without missing a beat, just said, "Wow, Dad, we'll miss you." So I said, maybe that's not for me. Plus, my wife said that if I ever went in front of a Senate confirmation hearing, I would embarrass our family for generations to come. The little thing that they held up was an article from the New Times, I think in 92 or 93, when I was working up in Washington. I came home one night on a Friday night, and the reporter catches me at the airport around 11:30 at night. I was extremely frustrated with this health reform, which was just economic reform, nothing to do to help people. And he says, "Well, how's it going in Washington?" And I turned around and I just said to him, "Same shit, they're gonna fuck the poor." And I walked away. And they quoted me. And my daughter said, "Dad, when did you stop being such a badass?" I said, "When your mom read the article." So I had to learn discretion. That part of my brain was never really well developed. But I love living in Miami. And I love the possibilities we have here to make this a better city, a better community, which means every single person. Do you know the amount of talent we throw away every single day because we ignore communities like Overtown and Liberty City, Miami Gardens and Opa-locka? Do you know the amount of talent we're throwing away? Talent that can make this place even better than it is today. We're not going to be remembered as a community by the buildings that we have, but how we took care of the least fortunate in our society and gave them the opportunities. Let's go back to our roots. Let's go back to the fact that we're supposed to be a country of opportunity. We're supposed to be a country that allows people to come in. I mean, of all places, Miami. Whenever this immigration argument comes up, it's just fascinating to me. Because I look at here and I think about 2 Native Americans sitting on Plymouth Rock, looking out in the ocean going, "Oh shit, boat people." Yeah, that's where we're from. We're from somewhere else. There's nobody from here. And the people that were from here, we took care of those too. So let's make a difference. Let's actually be ethical. Let's actually be moral on our daily decisions and our business decisions and our visions. I walked into our clinic at Camillus one time. It was lunchtime. I had a sandwich with me. And at the time in the clinic, we used to have a glass door where we had the pediatric area. We had a glass door so that the mothers that were coming from a shelter could take a break while volunteers took care of the kids before they saw the doctor. And I walked in and there was a mother with 2 of her kids, and they were from the Salvation Army. And the youngest kid caught my eye, about 6 years old. He had a sweet smile. I'm Catholic. I felt guilty. I'm not going to eat that. I'm a non-purging bulimic anyway, so I really didn't need the sandwich. You'll get that later. So I gave the sandwich to that little boy. Little boy took the sandwich out of the bag, unwrapped it, broke it in half, took 2 bites. Then he stuck the sandwich back in the bag, put it in his pocket. I've worked in 2 presidential administrations. I met head of states. I get to work with the Rand Corporation. I've traveled the world. What is this homeless child doing? Why is he putting that sandwich away? And I asked him, why did you do that? And I could only imagine what it's like to be homeless. First and foremost, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made in my life was the articles I published using the word homeless, because I labeled people, something we're not supposed to do. And I regret that. One of my biggest failures in life was when we opened the big Camillus Clinic. Oh, sure, it's a beautiful clinic, but it's a sign of failure. Because if you have to triple the size of a homeless clinic because we haven't resolved the problem, then I failed. Because in medicine, we take care of consequences. We don't take care of problems. And I looked at that little boy, and all I could think of was, what's it like? Remember when you were kids, you had your own stuff? I remember my daughter could have a toy. My son is born. They're 3-year difference. She could be 9, he could be 6. He finds a toy she hasn't seen in 7 years. She comes up to me and says, he's playing with my toy. So you have a place where you put your stuff. You know when you have a bad day at school, you can talk to your parents. Have you been to shelters? It's communal. Everybody sits together. It's nice we give them a room so you can have the mom and the kids in one room. I have 2 kids. When my kids were younger, you stick me in an 8x12 room on a Friday night, I'm the only one walking out on Monday morning. They drive you crazy, okay? The reality is we have to treat people with the same ethics and morals that we expect to be treated by ourselves. And when I looked at that little boy and I said, why did you do that? Why'd you stick that sandwich inside your jacket? You know he's hungry. And his answer has stuck with me to this day. He looked up at me and said, it's for my brother. Not only was he hungry, but he understood how hungry his brother was. Every single day I pray to God that I can be that 6-year-old child, that I can think before I make a judgment. When I look at somebody and they make a comment to me that might be offensive or something that is I just don't like, I wonder, what happened to you yesterday or last night or the night before? And who am I to judge you? I'm trained in only judging an illness to make a diagnosis. Sure, we're human beings and we're going to do that. My kids judge me on the way I dress. I think I dress pretty nicely, but that's... But the reality is, ethics is not what the society is doing, it's what we are doing individually to make the society do it. We can make this the greatest city in the world. Maybe one day the Dolphins will win again. Okay, maybe not. But the reality is, it's not about that. It's about everybody else, not about yourself. And if you think that way, then yeah, we can make this the greatest community in the world. Thank you.